Welcome to the Hasn't Been 3 Days podcast with your hosts, Justin and BJ. We talk about 3-day-old news, sports, and whatever else we want to talk about. You, the MVP listener, you listen in, you laugh, you cry, you might hate on our takes, you might love them. I think you're going to love them tonight, and so we're glad you're with us tonight. Justin, how are you, man? How's your week been?
I'm doing good, man. Doing good. It's my first full week of working 5 days, so that was a little different.
Ever. Justin has never worked a 5-day week ever.
Yeah.
So this was the first one. This is a milestone.
Yeah, usually, it's just like high school. You made it through a full week of school too. So, but anyways, yeah, no, it's good. Just to kind of get back in the groove after vacation and kind of started back. Had a surprise birthday party over the weekend for a friend, and that was fun. Got to golf a little bit, so I was consistent in golf, shot 44 in front and back nine, so, can't go wrong with that.
There you go. Boring life. Good job.
What about you?
Yeah, I didn't get to play golf, but we did finish up a couple projects at home this weekend, and it's been good. It's been a good week, been a busy week, but yeah.
The rain stay away for you out there?
No, it's Oregon. It rains 200 days a year. So
I thought it was overcast today. Maybe you didn't get any rain.
Well, it has been cloudy. We did get some rain yesterday. We actually finished we were doing a little fire pit project in our backyard, and we got it done, but it was raining on us as we laid the last stones, so it was cool. But,
good deal. All right, let's jump into this. We have an interview tonight. We have two.
Yeah, this is going to be good.
You guys better hang on to your pants because this is going to get – I don't really know what's going to happen. It's going to be good. But to kind of recap what we got going on, so we've had my sister on a few times. She's married to my brother-in-law, Alex. He's appeared in the episodes in the background, but just saying hi or making a comment. But tonight we're gonna have Alex on. Alex and his dad Mike are gonna join us. We are gonna be doing kind of a special episode talking about the upcoming 250th birthday of the United States. Mike and Mike's family is a military family. Alex is in the military. Their sister's still active. Because I think, if I remember correctly, I can let them talk about this, but I believe Aaron is out. But anyways, long story short, we're going to I just did the whole interview. We're done. No, just joking. But no, we're going to bring on Alex and Mike. And so, Alex and Mike, are you with us?
We're here.
Well, thanks for joining us. I kind of recapped everything, but Alex, you and my sister have been married. I don't even know how long. It's
too long. 11 years this year.
Oh, 11 years.
Wow.
Yes.
Yep, been a while.
Yeah. So 11 years. So we've hung out with the Topil family. They've been so gracious to take in my sister. I think that's what we say, right? When you get rid of your
gracious
sibling.
is a good word for it.
So, but it's been awesome having them around. They're a fun family to hang out with. We go over there for birthdays and stuff, so it's been really awesome to hang out with them in a family setting, extended family. So, Mike, tell us a little bit about yourself. We've heard, Alex and Michael's side of the story, but Mike, tell us a little bit about your family and what
okay.
you.
Sure.
That you're married.
Yeah, we've been married now. We're coming up on 40 years in October. To the same woman. She's tolerated me well, or I've tolerated her. I don't know which. Kind of ebbs and flows. Actually, we were the proverbial high school sweethearts. We started dating when I was a senior and she was a junior, but actually, I don't know, this may be or may not be unbeknownst to my children, but she actually dated my brother and my cousin prior to me. So I think she ended up.
I knew about your brother. I didn't know about your cousin.
Yeah, ended up, And so, yeah, she's a year younger than I am. We're both born in 64. She won't like that, but
well, she's 29 in all of our books, so we're good.
Yeah. So, but yeah, so then grew up. I would call a blue collar family. My dad was a firefighter, then became the training chief for the city of Lincoln in Nebraska, and then my mom was a stay at home mom up until about 8th or 9th grade, and then when we were all out of the house, or she went to the Lincoln Public School system to learn how to cook or ruin how to cook. And I have 3 brothers, no sisters. And, I've been in, I worked in the pharmaceutical, automotive, and the food world, and still am in the food world. And so that's kind of me in a nutshell. I'm a University of Nebraska Kearney grad. Back then it was a state school. And, then I went through the military, which is, kind of, I think, some of the topics we're going to discuss a little bit. Started out enlisted and then went through officers candidate school and, did that for 9 or 10 years and then got out, and kind of the rest of the business world is history. And then, of course, as you alluded to, bought a business in after COVID or during COVID. Supposed to be my retirement job, but I haven't retired yet. So I guess, it's, a plug for that is wood carving mallets. We sell those, throughout the United States and 7 different countries beside that. So it's a nice little thing to occupy my time and what I've learned in the business world. But, you just never know where you're going to go until it kind of presents itself. So.
Yeah, you and Lynette, you went to high school in Lincoln, right? Or not?
Yeah, Southeast.
Okay. You went to Southeast.
Yep.
Well, and that concludes our interview then.
Yeah.
Southeast grads.
Well, you know what they say, guys, is once a Spartan, always a Spartan. Once a knight is enough. So for you guys that are, Justin, you'll get that being from Lincoln.
Oh yeah, 100%. Oh yeah, especially. Yeah, Southeast. I lived in the Southeast District, but I went to East High, so I had plenty of Southeast.
Yeah, I forgive you for that. But
a lot of people forgive me for a lot of things, so it's all good. But,
I never thought my children would go to parochial school. At least
once you're a Thunderbolt, you regret it forever. So.
Well, at least we know we're getting the true colors out. This is really good. This is really good. Yeah. Mike, would you mind just let's give an official plug for your business. What's your business name? And
sure.
tell us how we can get in touch with you.
Sure. Company is called What Is Good Company. My wife that works at a urology clinic, that her doctor's favorite, but no, it's What Is Good Company, www.whatisgoodco.com. We're a wholesaler, but we do have 8 or 9 distributors that sell our products. We are on Amazon, eBay, various people sell them. And then if they need some problems with their wood carving mallet or whatever they use it for log cabins or marble or whatever the folks carving needs, they just can reach out to me either via the email or the phone number on the website. So, but appreciate that.
Yeah, we'll definitely get that updated. We'll get that updated on our link tree and get that put in there so people, when we talk about it,
I'll get you guys a couple free mallets so you know what we're talking about.
Well, I appreciate that. You've kind of recruited. My sister told me that she kind of helps a little bit out with the with that business a little bit.
Yeah, well, right? She's been brought into the fold in the circle of trust.
Yep.
And
she does more than I do.
But now she had all this proprietary production process we have. If she goes outside, we're going to have her.
Yeah,
we won't go into that. But she helps out. It's it's a little family business I always said this. My dad always had being a firefighter, always had a side job, and so someday when I grew up and got out in the business world, I wanted to give it a go on my own. So this was kind of me dabbling my feet in owning a business and running it. And so, yeah, it's just been a nice little fun project. And, I get emails from people that, the company, I've had the company for 5 years, and I can trace it back to being 50 years old.
Okay.
So,
Nice.
and I think the 5 years that I've owned the business, we've sold or produced at least 10,000 wood carving mallets. So whenever I think the business itself is, like how, it's kind of like Lay's potato chips, I guess. You just can't eat just one. So they just keep coming back. But I've had folks send me mallets back from, 20 or 30 years ago. We'll refurbish them or tighten them up for them and do things like that. So I've met a lot of people, both domestically and abroad, talking to them about mallets and what they use them for. So it's been a fun ride so far.
Now, Mike, you and Lynette have 3 kids. I alluded to that. You have Aaron's your oldest,
Yep.
and then it's Alex and Bailey. Correct? I got that right.
You got it.
I think I had it switched earlier in my head. I don't know why. Probably because I think Alex is just so much younger than me. So it's like I always forget how old Alex is sometimes. He's young, but he's an old soul. It's kind of fun. So
Old body too, just older than it should be.
He gets that curmudgeonness from his mother, I think.
Yeah.
I'm a free spirit.
Now, you and Lynette, did you guys move around at all, or did you guys stay in the Midwest when your family was growing?
So going back to the military a little bit, that kind of started it all. When I went in it would have been the summer or spring of '83, and then that was my year out of high school. Went to Leonard Wood, Missouri for basic training, and then went to Fort Gordon, Georgia, for my enlisted school, and then came back, did OCS here in Nebraska, and then spent time in Fort Gordon again as an advanced officer school, and then came back to Nebraska. Well, that was back in Nebraska. We lived in Lincoln, then we moved to Kearney, Nebraska, and then subsequently from there we moved to Athens, Georgia. Was there for about 7 or 8 years, and then we moved back to Lincoln, or back home, and have been here ever since.
Now, if I remember, Alex, you were born in Georgia, right?
No. I was born here in Lincoln.
Okay.
Made the move out to Kearney.
Yeah.
There's Bailey that was born out in Kearney.
Yep. She was born in Lincoln, and after she was born, we moved.
Yeah.
Okay.
And then we made the move down to Georgia.
Yeah.
I gotcha. So you kind of grew up. Yeah. Okay. Maybe that's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
Your younger years, you were down in Georgia.
Yep.
So, okay.
He can still turn on the southern drawl if he wants.
I can if I want to. It'll come out every once in a while when I've been drinking.
Y'all been fixing to do this or that. Okay.
Yeah.
So, Mike, what was your draw to the military? Was that something that you grew up with, or was that something that you just felt led to do? Tell us a little bit about what got you started in enlisting.
Sure. Yeah, that's it's probably a little deeper than you want to go, but my era, and what I can remember, and going back to the early '70s was Vietnam.
Sure.
And I can remember seeing black and white. I know you young guys don't know what that means, but
no, we've seen MASH. We're good.
Yeah. the movie or the series, all right?
Yes, all the above.
All right. But in my what did we see back then? You saw all the bad stuff. You saw the caisson and all that stuff, and the death tolls and blah blah blah. And I had my mom and dad had a cousin or something that was killed in Vietnam, and I can remember being 4 or 5 years old, going to the funeral and, just, it's kind of a dark thing. And then you just growing up as, you get to be 10 or 11, you're going, this war's still going on. One of my cousins going to get pulled into it and blah, blah, blah. And so, you kind of, as you got older and kind of, you moved beyond that, it was more of, for me was more of a challenge. Could I do it? Could I go through basic training? Could you go through all that? Go away from home, when you don't do that. And so, to me, it was more of a challenge personally is say, here was an accomplishment. Could I do it? Or at least that's how I viewed it at the time. Mm-hmm. And, when, believe it or not, Leonard Wood, Missouri, all of 6 hours away or 7 hours away from Lincoln, Nebraska seemed like, half the world apart when I went to basic training. And, it's, a new environment. And when I'll say about that time frame, you guys have seen Rambo, I'm sure the first one. And, and that was like, the era of the National Guard or the Army at that time was weekend warriors. And we were going from a, post Vietnam era into a peacetime army. And, so things were changing. I mean, the physical fitness requirements when I started in the military, was like an eye opener to the guys that were there. I can remember guys being overweight, smoked, drank, and then, there was a big shift to going from a wartime army to, kind of where, really the National Guard and the reserves weren't pictured as being the fighting force, not like Aaron, Alex, and even Bailey to this day. And from the time, that I went into basic training in 1983, that summer, guys were still smoking. They had the smoke breaks. You could, if you were on base, you could, you were 18, 19, you can go down to the PX and have a beer, once you got through the stuff. So it's evolved. By the time that I got into, 3 years later when I went into officers candidate school, well, you then had to have college credits. Smoking was being phased out, and drinking, their physical fitness, you had weight standards. There was a big shift. And the other thing that's probably really interesting, and I kind of forgot about this, but when I was in basic training, that was the first time they ever had a woman drill sergeant. Now, I didn't have her, but that was the starting of the integration of women into the service or in a bigger role. And then when I went to my advanced school, we had women on the fourth floor and three floors of men on the bottom floor. And I'll tell you, there's all sorts of, challenges that I can't imagine what they went through, boys being boys, girls being girls, at 18 to 21 years old. And so, the evolution and the time frame, and then just, when I, first you got through basic training, got through school, that challenge. And then I said, well, that was physical. How about mental? So when I went to OCS, I mean, there were still physical parts of it, but, go back to the movie Officer and a Gentleman where they, put you through this or that. They put us in scenarios to just see how you would perform under pressure. And one of the rules I always, and I even use to this day, short of death, I can fix anything with time and money. Well, in the military, really, that's not the option. You get one. You don't get a do-over on a mistake in combat. So,
you don't get a hit restart like in the video games.
Yeah, you learn, and I think it took a series of years. But, the National Guard and the reserves, and then the Gulf War came about. I had just gotten out when the first Gulf came. I was inactive, military, or as an officer, you're really never out. But I thought for sure I'd get pulled back into that. I never did. But, I say the military, changed immensely from the early 80s to the 90s. And then when we got into the first Gulf, it was a change in the philosophies and even the strategies, if you will.
Sure. Yeah. Alex, what was it for you? What was it like, with your dad being military background? Is that what drew you in, or tell us a little bit about your story about what caused you or drew you to that?
Well, when I joined, I had nothing better to do.
Okay.
No, I had a pretty big myriad of reasons as to why I joined, really. At that point, when I was in high school, when I joined, I was at the point where Aaron, my older brother, and we had been, growing up. We were 2 years apart, but I always grew up it basically seemed like I grew up at his level, not mine. So in sports, I was always trying to play up to him. We were on the same sports teams for several years, actually. And so I kind of always looked up to him, kind of idealized him. And then throughout high school, we kind of fell apart in our friendship a little bit, just him getting older and me staying where I was. And then once I started getting to that point, we kind of got back together a little bit, and I just idealized him again, and he was in. So I wanted to be in. And then,
Sure.
I knew Dad was in, so wanted to be like Dad too. And Grandpa was in, wanted to be like Grandpa. My uncle was in, wanted to be like him too. So it was a family thing. Runs deep, a lot deeper than you think on the
tell
surface.
Us a little. Yeah, for sure. Tell us a little bit about your enlistment journey. Did you enlist right?
I enlisted at 17 years old. It was the beginning of my senior year. When they came in our junior year, and we took the ASVAB, which is the assessment exam for the military. And at that point in my life, I had no idea that I wanted to be in. I didn't care. I just breezed through the exam like it was just another one at school, and didn't really care much about it. And then it was the summer after that I, like I said, my brother and we got back to being closer than we were, and then I started looking at it more closely. Got in touch with a recruiter. I actually I wanted to go to the Air Force. I wanted to be a pilot. So I hit up an Air Force recruiter, and I set up a meeting to go talk with him, and then I showed up at the recruiter's office, and the door was locked, and I sat there for 15, 20 minutes, and kind of just waited to see if he would show up, and he never did. And so then I looked next door, and that was the Army National Guard door. So I walked in, I met a man named Mitch Taylor, and he was my recruiter and changed my world.
Yeah.
And he knew my dad.
Interesting side note. He actually was a high school classmate of mine.
He knew my dad. So then I started talking to him and told him my name, and he kind of did a double, triple, quadruple take, and was like, "Mike Topil?" And I was like, "Yes, sir." And here I am almost 18 years later.
It's kind of funny because it's a similar situation for me. It's like, I never had any inclination to go into the military in high school, but, my dad pulled me in. I think it was my junior year of high school. He said, "Well, son, what do you want to do in life?" This is pretty deep for, just coming out of 10th grade. And he says, "Well, you can either go to the military, trade school, or college, or to work, but you're not, that was then." And it was kind of funny because I think I had the same. He said, "If you're going to go into the military, you can do anything but the Marines. So stay away from that." That was my dad's feelings about that. He was Army, by the way. And then I think everybody wanted to get into the Air Force, but the same thing. The recruiter was never there. I think I have the same story.
They were staying in
They were playing golf.
I guess.
Yeah.
But yeah, and then it was just, like when I joined in 08. So it was a combination there. It was Operation Desert Storm, Operation Desert Shield. We're in 91, early 90, 91. And then, 9/11 in 2001. And, that's, it's a lasting impression. You kind of, you see something like that and it sticks with you for a long time. So there's some stuff like that. And then, it's a good way to pay for college too. So,
yeah.
Well, I think
so.
Go ahead.
Oh, I got to tell you my Fort Leonard Wood story. I always used to tell people I was a military wannabe, and I don't know if we'll get into that or not, but I lived 30 minutes from Fort Leonard Wood and would go down there to get my hair cut. And I would go down there to get my hair cut at one of the military barbers because I always cut my hair high and tight and just wanted it as short as possible. And
good look.
I went in there one day and the guy said, "Are you military?" I said, "No, I'm a military wannabe. I'm a pastor actually." And so we would have these conversations, but I would always be sporting a military cut that people thought I was. When I walk around, Fort Leonard Wood, it was, people thought I was just on leave or something else. So, but yeah, that we enjoyed our time in that area of the country as well. I love being around a military community, similar to being a pastor and moving around a lot, church to church, military, moving around base to base. There was just a common ground. And even though it was two different approaches to life and two different career paths, at least there was some common ground of, moving away from family, serving with a purpose, doing what you got to do. But just kudos to you guys. Thank you for your service. Really appreciate that. Before we go any further, just want to say that thank you so much for that. But so all three kids of yours, Mike, have served or are serving. Am I gathering that correctly?
Yeah, you're correct. Aaron was in, and then he
quit.
Well, he quit, or
he got out at 12 years, and
then Bailey and Alex are still in. Yeah.
Okay. Well, that's really cool. So I'm curious, just both of you, and you guys can choose who goes first on this one. But Justin wrote down some questions. I think they're really good. But as we come up on certain holidays of the year, every single year, I think I get amazed at just America as a society, as a culture, how we confuse really what the military has done to give us some of the freedoms we have to celebrate and honor that. But from your guys' perspective, when you're in it, when you're right there, you're neck deep in that life, in that way of going about it, what are some of those priorities that are running through your mind? Are you thinking about the rest of us that aren't even considering what you guys are sacrificing for us? Or is it just a job for you, and are you going after it? Tell me a little bit about your mindset as you think about defending our country and doing this for all of us, that many of us that don't even care, to be honest, and that's sad. But for those that do care and do respect you guys, what is going through your head as people that have served faithfully this country?
I'll let you go first, and then
I don't know. I mean, when it comes to the holidays and stuff, I don't know. Personally, I don't view my military service as like anything really. Like, it's just another job for me mostly. I don't know. It's kind of hard to explain, I guess. But as far, like, I'm all for people just celebrate it. Like, it's there for a reason, right? Memorial Day, Veterans Day, Armed Service Day. I can confirm we get plenty of recognition that I honestly don't need. I don't. I hate going places in uniform. People try to buy me stuff. I don't need you to buy me stuff. the government pays me, so I don't need you to buy me stuff. And I can steal money from my dad too. I don't
Yeah, we started a business. We'll just use the business account.
The 4th of July is there because 250 years ago. Like I've got nothing to do with that, so celebrate it. That's my opinion. There's people that they want more respect, and honestly, there's a lot of people that deserve a hell of a lot more respect in that regard than I do. I think everybody that did join deserves a high level of respect, for sure. But I've been in for almost 18 years. I've never been deployed. I've done some mobilizations for some stuff, but I haven't done any freedom fighting, if you want to call it that. The holidays aren't there for me. They're there for the people that we fought for, right? So I don't care if they respect. I don't care if they respect it or not. Just celebrate it because that's what it's there for.
Well, I mean, I appreciate your honest answers on that, and I know that you respect the ones that have come before, and you see that from your family lines, and you respect that independence that even though it's 250 years ago. I mean, you respect the fact that the people that did fight, and that's another one of those reasons. Seeing your family, I get the sense that seeing your family be a part of it, and you having a part in that. I mean, I think the things you do humbly, you say you don't deserve a lot of the respect. I mean, just you're helping prepare those people who have gone or do go by being here. I feel, from my perspective. I could be wrong, but I think the things that you do, here in the States and prepping people and just doing the little things help support those people who do go over. So
okay, no, I'm not saying I haven't done anything. I
wasn't trying to say that either.
I just say there's a lot of people out there that have done a lot and do deserve a lot for sure, and by all means they should get every bit of respect that they do deserve.
Plus, on a side note, Alex loves attention. So, I mean, he just loves it all the time. So,
sure. That sounds exactly like me.
Mike, what's your perspective on that?
Yeah. So no, that's an interesting, and age. You get to, I guess, have a little more, philosophical about it. I guess. I'm like, I don't want to say I'm like Alex, but he's better than I am. But I know I was, when I was in the military, I trained for fighting the Soviet Union. Okay, that was my focus. That was the focus of the country, if you will, from '82 to whenever the wall went down. And I never went abroad. Similar to Alex, I'm of the similar thing. Was I in harm's way? No. I mean, I was in basic training when they blew up the barracks in Lebanon. We all thought we were going to get deployed for that, but that never came. And so, in my world, I mean, I prepared for war, but I never was in a position, to be where, take Aaron. He went over to Iraq, a good friend of ours, his same neighborhood. He went over to Afghanistan, and just depending on time, saw what you did. I mean, as so I always say this: not the military isn't for everybody, and it shouldn't be. The military, just like any large organization, has good people and not so good people. Not everybody, I think it's what the ratio is: 1 to 3 will be in combat, the 3 are rest of support. Now, we all train for being in support, but you may never see it. But when somebody told me this a while ago, because I always say the same as Alex, I'm no hero. I don't know what would have happened if, I was deployed or put, under fire. I mean, we did a lot of simulations and stuff like that. But end of the day is he still signed up. And like I said, that's not for everybody. Everybody that supports the military, and like I said, there's good and bad. You support the concept, but let's not the ideological, or however we got it. It's hard for me to say. Of America is, guys wrote some stuff down to get away from the tyranny of England, and being out on their own. And so that concept to me isn't necessarily just totally political, or I should not, military. That's a better term. We're all there. We all have this, what makes America great is the freedoms we have, and what we've agreed to in a, declaration makes us kind of what we are. And, if we live by those and, support those and support the people in the military, because to be honest, in 73, to 80, when the guys came back from Vietnam, and, Lynette, my wife's uncles, two of them served over there, and they both had different experiences. One was a ground pounder grunt, and other was in communications. But how they came back to that, we should never see that again. And I think that's the spirit of what America really is you have the right to say whatever you want to say, and I'll fight and I'll be in the military to do that for you. And I believe that wholeheartedly. I may not agree with what you're saying. I may not believe what your beliefs. At the end of the day is we all can, we can have those disbeliefs for the better of the country, in my opinion.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you, guys. Appreciate that.
Yeah. You might have already said it with that answer, but one of the questions I had written down to ask is, like, as the United States comes up on their 250th birthday, what would be, from either of you, or maybe both of you will have the same answer, is like, what one message to Americans as we celebrate, what would you say to them as going into the next 50 years to our 300th birthday? What would be something you would say, like a message?
I'm going to date myself here a little bit, because I was old, and I was here for 1976. So I was, I was in Pound Junior High, I think, in 1976. And so this is my second, if you will, bicentennial or half centennial celebration. Yeah. But, just got back from Italy for a work trip. We're a young country. Yeah. I mean, we're looking at stuff over there that's, 1100th century, 400, 500, 600 years old. We're still young. We still haven't got this all figured out. But what I would tell people is that, the freedoms we have, and, if you don't, and I'm blessed because I get to travel throughout the United States as well as countries. I see a lot, hear a lot. It's neither as good as bad, as what you hear in the press. But there's still what makes America great is that, we know what's right. Separate political or differ that, we know it's right, and we stand up for that type of freedom, speech, religion, your lifestyle, whatever that case may be. Regardless, that hasn't really changed over the years, and the 50 years since the last 200 celebrations. I don't think a lot of that's changed. To be honest, we still can go where we want. And we can still do a lot of things we do. And we just, we still are the envy of the world.
Yeah.
That you don't get that without the sacrifices that, the guys did in 1776 all the way to, 2026. Everybody sacrifices to keep this going, and you need to have that. I guess one other thing, and I drag this out, what it's always amazed me, and if especially you guys, you've been on a military post. What's always amazes me that when I went to Aaron and Alex and Bailey's basic training graduation is the hundreds of volunteers that are going through basic training every year. it's not a draft year back in Vietnam when people are being drafted and you had to go. This is the volunteer army, volunteer Air Force, military. That is just an amazing thing when you see 2,000 kids in a class, and that's happening every 8 to 10 weeks.
Yep.
You know, right, wrong, whatever their situation is to do this, that is still inspiring to me because that tells the foundation of the country as a whole is still on the right, if you will, path.
Yeah.
So that's my
I am so happy for you to say that because you're right. Whatever you read, see, and on TV and social media, it almost seems like it's completely. Sometimes it could almost feels completely opposite. Sometimes, how people treat it and what makes it in our news feed and stuff like that. So I'm so happy for you to say that because I think that is true. Hearing from people's.
Well, I think the other thing, and it's not that hard. I tell people is, for my work, I work in, I go to Mexico, I go to Canada, I go, I said, I'm going to use Mexico as an example, probably get me in a lot of trouble, but, you look at their living conditions, their social classes. It's I view it as a 2-class system as opposed to here. We have a middle class, an upper class, lower class. And maybe that classes is not a good term because that's really based on, financial factors, but, just cross the border once and you'll understand why they want to come here to work. It's really,
absolutely.
And that's why we're a shining star in the world for that reason. And it's not just Mexico. There's a lot of other places that way as well.
Absolutely. Yeah. Justin, you have a good question here. I think we'd be remiss if we didn't mention it. Maybe they'll cut a joke about this. I don't know. But Mike, your spouse Lynette and Alex, your spouse.
You read my mind. That was going to be my next question too.
Obviously,
we may choose not to answer this one, guys. Okay.
This military runs deep in your family. Talk a little bit about how you have the support of your spouse. How has that been if you will, shed a little bit of light there on those conversations, maybe with you and Lynette, Mike, and when you first went in and how that all went when you got out even, and when you decided to make a transition in life. What was the involvement of your spouses and how their support really continues to drive you to be able to serve and do what you've done in the military?
And I'll add one more thing to that. Mike, like what you saw, like from, because you said your dad was in the military, right?
Yes.
Okay, so like seeing, like your mom and how she supported him, and just in that growing up stage, I'd love to hear any of that. Yeah, that'd be awesome.
No, great question, guys, because this is something I thought about. So, let's go back to my dad and his family. So, prior to my dad would have been my great uncle, and he served in World War II. And then, my mom's cousins, my dad's cousins were in Korea. She had Vietnam. To be honest, there was never any pressure. But I don't think even, I'll let Alex answer this for himself, but, like I said, first of all, my dad went into the military to avoid Vietnam. He went in, when you go back into the 50s and the 60s, I mean, he'll tell, he's not alive anymore, but, he'll tell you this is that, I don't think it was because they were necessarily scared of it, but it was think about it. They had less interconnectivity with the world than we did back in 1953. This place called Vietnam, where's that? And then they were just, World War II. I mean, the United States probably was tired of war because you went from World War II, then you went to Korea, and then you have a conflict. I don't know that for a fact, but, look at us now. We're tired of, whatever. But, he, back then, that was the draft. So either you went in to avoid certain things or you could get drafted. And so I know my dad, the same thing, he was third or fourth sibling on a farm, small farm. He's not going to get the farm, so he's going to have to do something. And that was, okay, you either got a job or you went to the military and, because that's really the path was for them. And then, what, to be, candid, my mom, or, she wouldn't have had any say because dad was 17 or 18. So they weren't even dating yet.
Okay.
When I went in, that was, we were still dating, but that was my own decision. And there again, we weren't in a conflict period at the time. So it wasn't as, I would say scary for others. When I signed up, it was, there, like I said, we were kind of in the post-Vietnam, peacetime, going from an active military presence, back in the 70s, we had a huge military presence in Lincoln, Air Force and stuff, just because of the number of recruits they were throwing in. And they were still a draft. I mean, I don't know if you guys remember signing up, having to go down to the post office and register for the draft. I mean, we still do, haven't had one in, 60, 70 years. And then, when, I went in, Lynette and I didn't really talk about it so much as, I was already in, and then, when I decided to get out, I could make more money at that point in the private sector than I could in the military. Now, I will say this, that just to kind of close it out, is that, back then, I say you're young and dumb, you're not scared of anything. The worst, and I'll say this would have been for all my children, Alex excluded here, but no. The reason why I say this is Aaron went to Iraq, Bailey went to Kuwait, and those were 365 long days, because that's something when you're doing it and you're in that role, you don't think about it. It's not going to happen to me. And that's the best way I can say it. When Alex didn't have to go to Afghanistan, that was a relief off of me, and because it's much easier for yourself to do it because you signed up for it versus watching your kids or a friend go. That's my take on it, if you will.
That's really good perspective. Alex, did you have something you wanted to add to that?
Yeah, I mean, I just say there's nothing harder than being a military spouse. Can confirm that they so the conversation never happened for Michael and I because I was in when we met, and she had to go through it with her first husband, several deployments. Luckily, she's not had to go through that with me. She's had to deal with several mobilizations, though, several schools, several periods of annual training, countless drills, and it's kind of stuff that she really shouldn't have to go through, but she's a trooper for doing it anyway. And it's impressive that they can put up with that kind of stuff, because even just this weekend, I had to drill this weekend, and it was a 4-day drill. And going into it, we were under the impression that I was only going to have to do an overnight for one night. And so she works overnights and she schedules herself. So she was kind of basing her work schedule on that idea. And then it ended up turning into a possibility that I was going to have to stay for three nights into 4 days. And that really jacked with her work schedule, and it also jacked with we had a birthday party for our daughter that was late scheduled, but it was just the only time that we could do it, and I almost missed that too. But luckily, we were able to work it out. I made it back. I only had to stay 2 nights rather than 3 nights, and it's just a crazy headache, a crazy burden that the spouses, the kids, the parents, that they have to go through, the stress that, if I get deployed, I know what I'm doing, I know where I'm going. I know what my job is, and I know where I'm going to be. And they have zero idea, people that have been in the military, they kind of get it. Like my dad, he'd get it a little bit, my siblings, they'd get it. But my mom, my kids, my wife, they have zero idea what it is I'm doing over there, anybody's doing over there. So they don't know, it's the burden that they have, the stress that they have to take on. It's wildly unfair, and it's absolutely amazing for them to put up with it.
Yeah,
I love how you said that, Mike. It's not their choice, and yet they still go through it, and they still love and endure through it. And I mean, our family's been through it just recently as well. I got a brother-in-law that he's been in for 21 years and never been deployed, and he re-upped after year 20 because he's like, I've never been deployed. I'll just go, one more time around. Here we go. And he's in the Guard, and sure enough, what happens as soon as he re-ups, he gets shipped off for a year, and he just got home. But you don't hear anything until that call comes after the fact that says, yeah, we were involved in this. We're okay now, and then you get the call that they're coming home, and it changes everything.
I'll add on a little bit because just this weekend we had my E8, the guy that was just above me in rank. He was in charge of me, and he actually just retired this weekend. This is his last drill, and so we had he's kind of like me. We like to stay low key, not make a big deal of stuff. And he didn't really want much of a retirement ceremony because when you retire, it's as big of a ceremony as you want it to be, right? And the unit will coordinate it, or your team will coordinate it. And so he didn't want anything, right? He's been in for 20 years. He had several deployments, and he deserved a retirement for the whole unit to see, and he wanted nothing. So we put on like a little, just our team of like 8 people, and we drank a few beers. We gave him his awards. We gave him his flag, and it was an emotional experience, especially for him, but for all of us. A bunch of dudes that are 30 plus years old up into almost 60 years old, tearing up because 28 years is a big deal. And after the fact, he was the guy that retired. He was saying, I really regret not doing something for having my wife and kids there. Because if anybody deserves the ceremony, it's not the soldier, really. It's the wife and kids. It's way harder on them, I guarantee it, than it is on the soldier.
I would say, absolutely, because you signed up on the dotted line.
Yeah,
they didn't.
I put my name on that line several times, and Michael hasn't done it once. But she's dealt with all of it. So
I remember when Aaron went, and any time, it doesn't matter if it doesn't matter if it's just a weekend or 2 weeks or a deployment or an engagement. The stress and strain on the family members is it's not convenient. And when you have young kids, I watched when Bailey deployed to the U.S. here now the border. I watched her when she deployed to Kuwait. Aaron went. Let alone the stress of the person being over in harm's way or not, but it's the families and the support group there. There should be more recognition there because it is a big deal. It's not. It's it's 1 weekend a month or whatever, but in 2 weeks, but it still is. I would say this, it never happens at a good time. There's always a birthday party. There's always a holiday. Yeah. There's something. There's a wedding. I can think of countless weddings and baptisms and stuff in my military career that I missed. You're going like, there's always that time you want to be somewhere else, but you still, you do what you have to do.
Work-life balance looks a little bit different for military families, for sure.
Yeah, absolutely.
Most definitely.
Yeah.
Well, gentlemen, this was awesome. I didn't know. I appreciated this a lot. I love to get to know the Topil family a little bit more deeper. I have some fun facts about the Topil family. And the Rabel family. So my sister, first husband was named Mike. Yeah. And so my sister can't get away from people's names in the family being Mike. Now, the funny thing is Mike, your middle name is Lynn, isn't it?
Yep, that's correct.
Yeah. So my sister literally can't get away, or probably gets all your mail. I don't know anymore.
Well,
but
We've gotten some mail of his a few times.
Well, I finally got the junior in my Michael Lynn Jr. So I got, I had to, she had to marry in, but we got
yes. And then the other fun thing is Alex and my brother Nate, they share a birthday, the 21st of March.
Yeah.
So it's kind of a cool little thing. So
you knew that Alex.
And my middle name is also Michael. So
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
There we go.
Oh, some good stuff. So, but no, this has been awesome. This has been great to have you guys on and share that. And yeah, I don't think I have anything else except for a last plug for Mike's business. We'll get that set up on Linktree. We'll promote it for you, Mike. We'll they keep that going for you. But I don't know, BJ, do you have anything to close out?
I have one other question, and it's kind of a personal one, so just humor me if you don't mind. My son is getting ready to. He was going to enlist Air Force. His recruiter did show up at their appointment, but
good for him. Yeah.
He's had some physical issues. He's got another surgery coming up, so he's postponing, and he's going to go the ROTC route and the officer route now. But whether it's my son or whether it's anybody that's looking at possibly signing their name on the line, what piece of advice would you give somebody who's, like, as you've said, so humbly and so graciously, I really appreciate that, when they're volunteering to do this, what's something that you would say to them as honorable veterans that you are, to somebody who's thinking about making this sacrifice themselves? What's a piece of advice you would give them?
From my standpoint, is there is absolutely nothing like the friendships that you'll make in the military. Just something about trauma bonding that you'll absolutely be best friends forever. Some of my best friends are from the military. I absolutely love them to death. I'd do anything for them. I'd die for them. And they'd live hours away from me. People that I haven't seen in years, if I saw them today, it'd be just a big bear hug and catching up like it was old times. It's absolutely worth joining to get a kind of bond like that. The experiences you'll go through are second to none.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I would say this. I mean, as I'd tell everybody, and just like I opened with, the military is just like any large gathering, being it high school, college, grade school, work. The military has its good and its bad. So you're going to go into it. It's going to be an experience. Some will have awesome experiences. Some won't, but it'll be something just like anything else. They can't take it away from you. It's, MBA or college degree. It's something you've done. It's an accomplishment. It's a commitment. It's a commitment of time and values and rules. But at the end of the day, just like anything else, if you're going to go into it, make the best of it. Try to be a contributor as opposed to just hiding and sliding, which there's plenty of people. And, I learned this from a drill sergeant. He said this, every morning right before we started doing push-ups and stuff. But, every day's a holiday, every meal's a feast. So, that's how you kind of treat life in general. Take the good with the bad, but always look for the good. So
that's good.
That's why I'd leave it at.
Well, before Justin closes us out, I just want to say thank you again for joining us, guys. It's been a pleasure. Thank you again for your service, your continued service, and just for joining us. Really appreciate the stories and the advice and just the perspective. So thank you guys so much. It's been a joy.
Thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll ditto to BJ. I have appreciated this. This has been fun to different perspective. I think it'll be a different perspective for people who listen to our podcast. I know, my son Brent, he loves listening to the podcast, so he enjoys these stories. He loves military stories, so he'll enjoy this and hearing that from you, Alex, and from your family. So he'll probably have a ton of questions for you next time he sees you. I appreciate that. I appreciate you guys' time, and I don't think I have anything else. I think this has been awesome. I've really enjoyed this. So.
Well, yeah, once again, thank you guys for joining us. Thank you, listeners, for listening in, tuning in. If you have any questions for us, let us know. Email us 3dayoldpodcast@gmail.com. We'll get the business woodisgoodco.com out there for you. Go get your wood mallets and get that taken care of for you as well. But thanks for joining us. Hope you have a great 4th of July week, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, you guys.
Yep. See ya.